to see that there's something suspicious, something dodgy about this argument, notice that there's a very similar kind of argument, an argument that looks very much the same, to a much more powerful conclusion. The conclusion not that moral responsibility, free will, the ability to do otherwise are incompatible with determinism, but that moral responsibility, free will, the ability to do otherwise are the sorts of things we never have whether or not determinism is true. Premise 1. Together, the initial conditions of our world and the scientific laws that govern our world and the precise way that undetermined events at the microscopic level, like atom decay, like the way that photons went when they were passed through narrow slits, all those things together, the way that they occurred prior to Damien taking the bill, they necessitated that Damien would take the bill. That seems kind of right. It seems that even if the world is indeterministic, it seems that if you knew everything about the initial conditions of the world and everything that happened subsequently, including all the ways that undetermined events went, you'd be in a position to know precisely whether or not Damien was going to take the bill or not take the bill. Premise 2, again, if together the initial conditions of our world and the scientific laws that govern our world and the precise way that undetermined events occurred prior to Damien's taking the bill necessitated that Damien would take the bill, and Damien could have neglected to take the bill, then either he could have made it the case that the laws were different, or he could have made it the case that the initial conditions were different, or he could have made it the case that the precise way that undetermined events occurred prior to his taking the bill was different. Premise 3, he couldn't have made it the case that the laws were different. Premise 4, he couldn't have made it the case that the initial conditions were different. Premise 5, he couldn't have made it the case that the precise way that undetermined events occurred prior to his taking the bill was different. He couldn't have changed any of these things. So the basic idea, look, is that even if determinism is false, the laws of nature are not, strictly speaking, deterministic, nonetheless, there are events that are completely outside, seemingly, of Damien's control, namely the laws of nature plus the past conditions of the universe, plus the way that atoms decay, the way that things occur at the micro level, that together necessitate that Damien will take the bill. He doesn't have perfect control of everything that's going on in his brain at the atomic level. And yet the conjunction of all these things happening in his brain at the atomic level determines that he'll take the bill. It fixes that he'll take the bill. It necessitates it. So, if we have this idea that, well, if things outside of your control necessitate that something will happen, then you don't have control over whether it will happen. Then you couldn't have done anything else. Then we have the idea that Damien couldn't have neglected to take the bill.